Hi there, it's Clara staying by your side with songs and words. In the last video, I talked about how difficult it can be to understand ourselves. Today, I'd like to especially focus on the challenge of finding our own strength. I often find myself wondering, what are my good qualities? Even in everyday life or at work, I sometimes think, how am I being helpful or what can I actually do well? Finding our strength and what we are good at isn't easy. So today, I'd like to think about why that is. Let's start with the first reason. Weaknesses are easy to notice and strengths are hard. Think about situations where you've thought, I'm really bad at this. Maybe when everyone else can do something easily but you can't. Or when you fail to do something you thought you should be able to. For me, I'm terrible at sports, so when I completely miss the mark in a throwing test, I immediately think, yep, I'm bad at this. Or I also have a poor sense of direction, so when I get lost trying to go back the way I came, starting on my phone and turning the map around and around and end up thinking, oh, I'm just not good with maps. We often recognize our weaknesses in moments like these when we try hard but still can't do it, or when something requires effort to do at all. But what about our strength? For instance, I enjoy writing and sharing my thoughts like this, but does that mean I'm actually good at it? It might sound self-conscious to say this, but I don't really feel like I'm especially skilled. I just enjoy doing it. Sure, some people say they struggle to write, so maybe I'm relatively good at it. But it still doesn't feel like something I can confidently call a strength. That's because strengths are often things we can do without thinking too much about them. For example, when I'm lost in spinning my phone trying to figure out a map, I'm very aware of what I'm doing. But someone with a good sense of direction can just naturally tell it's this way without much effort. In other words, weaknesses require conscious effort. That's why we notice them. Strengths happen effortlessly. That's why we overlook them. So we end up paying more attention to what we can't do. This also happens when we compare ourselves to others. For example, my job often requires knowledge and technical skills. And the other way, a coworker knew something I didn't, and I thought, wow, he's amazing, I'm so behind. But if the opposite happened, if I knew something he didn't, I might not even realize it unless he said so. And as I mentioned in the last video, people often show their strength and hide their weaknesses. Makes it even easier to think everyone else is so capable and I'm not. There's a philosopher named Ludwig Wittgenstein who once described how professionals judge beauty in design. He said that a designer of the door, for instance, might think, higher, oh, that's just right. We tend to be sensitive to what's missing from our ideal, but not so much to when things are just right. Maybe that's similar to how we overlook our strengths. So the first reason is that it's simply easier to notice our weaknesses than our strengths. The second reason is that weaknesses are easy to admit. Strengths are hard to claim. I don't mean being open about our flaws, but I mean saying I'm good at this required some courage. For example, in job interviews, they often ask, what are your strengths? Whenever I hear that, I hesitate. I might think, Maybe I'm better at writing than most people, but saying I have strong writing skills feels too confident. Then I start doubting myself. There are people who write better than I do, or I've never won any hours on writing. And eventually I end up thinking, I guess I'm not that good after all. But saying I'm not good at this is surprisingly easy. I can say I'm bad at reading maps without hesitation, even though there are probably people who are worse than me. I've never won a map reading failure award, but still, I'm definitely not great at it, so I can say it freely. If you imagine a graph from bad to good, maybe most people start calling themselves bad somewhere around the middle, but only call themselves good once they're near the top. It's as if there's an invisible barrier we feel that we have to clear before we are allowed to say, I'm good at this. And maybe that's also influenced by recent culture, like even in fandoms, for example, people sometimes compete over how much they love something. Like, you can't call yourself a real fan unless you buy all the CDs. So the barrier for calling yourself good has gotten higher, while saying I'm bad at this feels easier. So today, I talked about how difficult it can be to recognize our strength. To be honest, I started thinking about this topic because I was feeling down at work, thinking, I'm not good at this, everyone else can do it better. At times like that, it helps to remember these hidden biases. Weaknesses are easy to notice, strengths are hard, and weaknesses are easy to admit, strengths are hard to claim. These are unconscious habits of thinking. If we don't realize them, they quietly shape how we see ourselves. Of course, it's important to face our weaknesses too, but we might also have hidden strengths we haven't noticed yet. On this channel, I share my thoughts on mental health like this, and also post covers and videos. If you're interested, please consider subscribing. See you in the next video. Bye!